trying to act like.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Atheist Roundtable. And there's an earthquake.
Yeah.
Right around the Atlanta area.
I tried to clap, and it did not work out for me. It's just destroying everything in the Atlanta area.
Great intro. We'll try that. No, I'm kidding. But no, welcome, and we appreciate everybody that's jumping on and listening tonight. We have a very exciting guest with us, and we'll get to that here in a second. But I am Oz, your host, as always, and my co-host, the man, the myth, and the legend. That would be Jesus Mike, and if his camera and everything is not quaking, my man, how you feeling?
I'm great, man. Well, I'm good. Before I had gotten on, after I took kind of a break from getting the show prep stuff ready, I was a little bummed out that I scrolled on TikTok, and I was on TikTok. That when I scrolled down, I saw people talking about something called sun gazing, and I kind of just shrugged it off as like, I'm gonna move on. And then I saw another person talk about sun gazing, and that is the act of where you look into the sun and you absorb something. I don't know what it is, but it struck me as this is something that is a prime example of how just a belief off the bat can absolutely have detrimental effects right away to your health. And that's something I would want to say. You can take a hypothesis and test it, but I don't want the person to test that hypothesis. So it's like I was sitting there going, I don't know what you do with this. But yeah, that was really hard to reconcile. So that's what I'm gonna start that off with.
I'm pretty sure that I was taught at a young age to not stare into the sun. I'm pretty sure somebody told me that once or twice, but now I want to talk about the website and merchandise, and there's actually 2 new pieces of merchandise on there, and that's a surprise for everybody because I just got them and I just added them to the website. But we're going to bring up Just Jeff, our head nerd of the nerdery.
Hello. Let's check out. It's going to be a learning experience for both of us. So go into the website, go into shop. Let's see these 2 new items. And there we are. Oh, okay. All right. So we have a TART bracelet. TART. Looks like we got $5 bracelets here. Show those off. And then, of course, a stadium cup. Fill it with your favorite beverage or don't.
Be the only one in
half
the
full or
stadium.
half empty. But if you ask Mike, he can debate you about whether or not it's half full, half empty, and what that means, since he's studying philosophy. And of course, the limited edition. Now, the limited edition Mute Oz T-shirt has been a favorite now, so we're going to have to do some more limited edition T-shirts. Again, this is limited to the number we're able to sell. So it is a limited edition Mute Oz T-shirt. You can select the color, you can select your size. And then if you want to be on the show, so if you want to be on the show, you see the show, you like it, you think you have something you can add, you can go right over here to the website, sit at the round table, go ahead and book an appointment. Hour, 30 minutes-ish. Come onto the show. We have a few appointments available, it looks like. And check out our schedule, too. So we have some big stuff coming up. Of course, we have Jen on the show tonight, so that's today. And then you have a couple other things on the TART calendar coming up over the next few weeks. Yep. And back to you guys.
Well, and you say it's limited edition, and we got to tell the audience why it's limited edition. That's because Oz's face broke the machines at one point, so we were limited on quantity. So
it's just limited to the number of prints we're legally allowed to share, because there is a limit to the amount of horror you can put into the world, and you're not allowed to own one if you have a child under 4.
Hey, haters gonna hate. Haters gonna hate. Now, Pasta, go ahead and get him off. Take him off the street. Thank you. No, but let's get down to business and like I said at the top, we have a very exciting guest with us tonight, and we're very excited to have with us the co-host of the Atheist Experience, Jenna Belk. Welcome to the Atheist Roundtable. We're super pumped to have you.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Not a problem. How you feeling tonight?
I'm actually doing pretty good considering the situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pandemic.
Yeah, of course. No, of course.
Yep,
Yeah, we understand that.
Yep, and I know Texas didn't they just go out to the middle of next month on their quarantine? Is that right?
I believe so. Yeah. So we're going to be locked up for a while.
Yeah,
it's okay.
That's
just
crazy.
Keep your bubble with people you like.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Keep the healthy people around you. And when I say healthy, I don't mean just physically, but emotionally and mentally. Absolutely, that's important.
Yeah.
But no, thanks again for joining us. And before we really move on, we typically like to ask just get to know you questions for ourselves, for our viewers, anybody that hasn't got to know you on screen. Just tell us a little bit about you, maybe what's going on in your life right now, or even with the ACA, anything that you want us to know about.
Right. So I started volunteering as a baby atheist, is what I was referred to as for the beginning, at the Atheist community of Austin, and was put pretty quickly on Secular Sexuality as a co-host for just a couple episodes, and then the Atheist Experience as a co-host officially. And so now I'm on the Atheist Experience, usually about once a month. But that streams live every Sunday at 4:30 Central, 4:30 p.m. Central. And that's something to check out. That is called a show where you call in, and if you believe in anything, whether it's karma or any kind of religion or anything like that, call us and tell us what you believe and why. It's a lot of fun breaking that down. I have also been inspired hanging out with people like these people, wonderful people you see on the screens, to start my own show where I thought that coming over to this side of things, I've got everything with me is still so extreme, and I'm still trying to break that. But I thought that everything would be the exact opposite. I thought, oh, well, everybody's going to be loving and friendly and non-judgmental over here. Okay, no.
Yeah.
So I decided that felt like I was smashed between these two worlds of just people yelling at each other. And I decided that I saw some people like y'all who are trying to open up conversation and make it healthy and productive and not just bickering, so we can learn from each other. Yeah, thank you. So I've discovered I'm very passionate about a lot of things now because I have to relook at everything, and I'm just excited. So I am basically inviting random people, whether you have a PhD or not, and just getting every kind of perspective that I can on every subject that I can, hoping that it'll help somebody. That's all.
No, that's great.
That's great.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. And just so you guys know, in the chat area, we're gonna have links for Jenna's YouTube channel, her independent one. Obviously, we'll have the Atheist Experience on there. The links there, and anything to do are going to be listed there. And we'll pop stuff up on the screen randomly. But yeah, so Jenna, when did you officially start your independent YouTube channel? When did you do that?
Almost exactly a year ago.
Okay.
I put out probably 2 episodes the first 6 months, just trying to get my bearings. And then about 2 or 3 months ago, I started putting out an episode a week. Had a little speed bump in July, dealing with some grief, but I'm going to start back up again this weekend.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Well, before Jesus, Mike, and myself get too far into our questions, we want to bring another guest on the screen that has a couple questions for you. And actually, Brina has been part of 2 or 3, I think, episodes of ours, and she actually started the process of getting us in contact for you to be on the show. So cool. I want to bring Brina on screen here, and Brina, welcome back.
Hello.
And Brina, I told Brina I have a couple questions ready for you. So, ladies, for now, the floor is yours. Go ahead, Brina.
Awesome. All right, I just wanted to start off by saying I absolutely adore you. You're such an inspiration, and I really appreciate that you came on the show with us. So,
Thank you.
yeah. Today I was watching, like I told you backstage, I was watching the episode you did with your friendly neighborhood atheist, where you're talking about CPTSD, and we have a lot in common in that aspect. And I had a couple questions regarding some of the stuff that was said on that episode. But to start off with, I was wondering, which is kind of ironic that you were talking about the judgment that we see in both sides and outside the community. And I think as women and other feminine identifying genders, we have a particular difficulty sometimes really getting into this community, just with the way that we can be treated and the sexism that sort of comes over from religious backgrounds and even gets into the secular side of things. So I was wondering if you've noticed a significant difference in the way that women and other feminine presenting genders are treated within the community and outside the community. And how is it that you respond to sexism as a secular advocate?
Ooh, that's a good one. So I used to work in a strip club. So I've witnessed all kinds of sexism. I think that I'm pretty immune to it. Like it doesn't get to me anymore. And so it's a little bit, I'm probably not the first person to complain about something like that. I completely understand why people do. It's tough. It's so tough. It's a man's world so far. But we've got some women coming in and speaking up and using our voices. And I think we're doing a pretty good job of being heard. And I think that people are being pretty receptive so far.
Yeah, definitely. I think as a whole, a lot female atheists have been really underrepresented within the community, and even in media. Like if you look online, the way atheists are stereotyped, like you rarely see a female atheist. It's always the man, and the women are vulnerable to emotions, and we're just not able to think skeptically, according to the media and how people perceive our gender. So yeah, thank you for answering that. And the other thing, getting into what I was watching on the episode about CPTSD, which, as if people have seen me on the show before, they know that I also have been diagnosed with that. Something that I've been really passionate about and just been thinking a lot about lately, in my own vulnerabilities and the way that I, can be triggered in the middle of a debate or a discussion, is just the aggravation I feel in the way that our trauma tends to be weaponized. And the moment we get emotional, even if I recognize and I say, hey, I know this is irrational, but I'm feeling triggered right now, it gets just used against us as a way to try to discredit atheists, but also just invalidate our experiences inside the walls of Christianity, and sort of trying to take the onus off of religion and act like that's not the reason, and that wasn't the cause of our trauma. So yeah, I just wanted to get some of your thoughts on that and how you respond to that happening, assuming that that's been something you've dealt with.
I think that it's actually very convenient. I just saw my therapist yesterday and talked basically about this, where I'm trying to rebuild relationships because I've damaged a few in the past couple years while on my journey, grasping around, trying to get answers. Now, with my it's triggers. And so I guess my very quick to respond emotionally in conversation randomly and unexpectedly with people that already trigger me just from my past, just from being from my childhood, you can trigger me very easily. And so it's very easy to say, if they could only blank, if they could only understand, or if they could only just be patient with me, or if they could only whatever. what I've realized with the help of my therapist, she's wonderful, is that I have to focus on me because that's all I have control over. And so what I've noticed that I do that makes my triggers so bad is that I get triggered and I stuff it and then I hold. And then I get triggered again and then I stuff it again and I keep holding. And then it just keeps happening. And all of a sudden I blow up and I'm thinking, well, you've already done 15 things to me. And they're like, where is this coming from? So what I'm trying to work on at this moment is when the first time that they say something that just really gets to me, I need to say, okay, and I need to explain to them situations, say, this is what's going on with me. This is what we're going to have to deal with if we're going to have a relationship. And I'd really like to work on that, but it's going to take time and we're both going to fail and we're both going to hurt each other. But I think you're worth it. Mm-hmm. So ask them to be patient with you. But when it happens, it gives us a chance for them to understand us and to feel validated enough for that voice in us to kind of settle down. And then we can, it does become easier. It's become easier for me so far over the past year and a half that I've been really working on it. Yeah. I hope I didn't say too much in that.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah. Something I've struggled a lot with, just not necessarily in my close relationships, but just using my voice more online. Because I'm passionate about the secular movement, but I'm also passionate about a lot of other things, especially when it comes to mental health and, LGBTQ equality as a bisexual woman. And whenever I open up about vulnerability or like something I'm struggling with, I get all of these attacks about I need Jesus. And like the instant that happens, I'm about to lose it. It's really difficult for me to respond rationally. Luckily, if I'm having a conversation in the comments, it's a lot easier to just try to stop and wait and think about it first. But sometimes I just have to block, and I try not to do that, but I'm just not going to respond well,
Well, however you respond is however you need to respond.
Yeah. That's a good way to say it. Yeah, that's true. It's, I always have I struggle with this just guilt, I guess. Like I'm not upholding my own standards. And yeah, that's always been a little bit of a struggle with me, but I really appreciate, because it's something I want to do more too, just your open vulnerability and being able to talk about these things. Cause I think a lot of atheists are afraid to do so because of those types of attacks. And I think we really need to be able to distinguish that we are allowed to be open about, our emotional trauma caused by religion without that being the reason that we don't believe in a God. I think it gets used in this idea that I just don't believe in God because I was hurt by religion, which is just so beyond not true. Because I'm sure you would agree. I did not know I was being harmed by religion until I was outside of religion.
Correct.
That wasn't what made me an atheist,
Right.
So yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask, and this is just something I heard you say a few times, and I think I relate to you a lot, especially in how our brain has decided to cope with the things that we've gone through. But I think there's definitely some differences in our experiences themselves, our backgrounds. And I struggle. I struggle with forgiveness, and I think that's an idea that's perpetuated by religion, that we need to forgive the people that hurt us. And I also struggle in differentiating between what is the cause of religion. I mean, even if religion is a starting point, at some point, somebody needs to take responsibility for their own actions, and I don't know how.
What do you mean?
I'm just curious, because you say you blame religion a lot, and not the person. And I get where you're coming from, especially in certain relationships, but I have a hard time knowing when not to blame the person.
So have you looked into determinism yet, or free will, that discussion?
No, not in depth. No.
Okay. Do you believe that free will exists? Do you believe that we are our own agents that can do whatever we want, whenever we want, at any time?
That's one where I'm going to say I don't know. I have thought about that, but okay. I genuinely don't know, because I've heard different sides of the argument, and it's intriguing, but I'm not sure.
I think that might help if you explore that discussion. because I think that the way that our brains are working right now, having been deconverted and finally opening up to things, I started learning a lot about determinism pretty quickly, because that's one of my favorite discussions. And I discovered, I was like, hold on. So I actually don't believe that free will is a thing. Because, and when they say, everything happens for a reason, I think that's a real thing. But it's not God playing Sims saying, oh, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. I think everything happens because something else happened first.
Yeah.
Something caused that, which caused that, which caused that, which caused that, which caused that. And it just goes back from the Big Bang. And then who knows how far before that. If there was a before that, because I'm now hearing that it doesn't even work like a before. It's just
an endless cycle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. I think I might look into that a little bit more, because I have had trouble, and not that it's something that anyone needs to do. Nobody is required to forgive anyone that hurt them. But I personally struggle with anger towards some of the things that I have a right to be angry about. But yeah, I think it would benefit me to look at it from a little bit of a different perspective.
Yeah. And Jenna, would you say that like you're kind of leaving the room to always forgiveness or always having forgiveness, just kind of based on ideals that would come from determinism?
Well, it's just that I don't think that I can blame anyone for anything.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sure.
I don't think that forgiveness and blame even need to be words. Like, forget that. Let's figure out what happened to cause this. And let's figure out if we can prevent it from happening again. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, let's try something else. If
So
we can look at it like cause and effect instead
of a more
of
proactive way of looking at
things. Sorry, go ahead.
That's a more proactive way of looking at things, instead of like dwelling on the issue, actually trying to fix the problem and rehabilitate these people into society, or help people so that more people don't get hurt.
Exactly. And that's why I'm trying to move forward with my relationships. It's just that certain people just don't care about things like that, and that's fine.
Yeah. 100%.
Brina, great question. And I knew Brina would come with great questions, and great questions, Brina.
Yes, thank you.
And then with Brina on the screen with us right now, Brina, thank you for starting the process of contacting or getting Jen and I in contact to schedule the show tonight and making this happen. So we appreciate that, and I appreciate you putting the work in to help us schedule this night. So thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brina.
Rockstar.
Yeah.
So no, that was awesome. And going back to what we kind of talked about even backstage before we jumped on, Jenna, the one thing I do appreciate listening to you is you and you've already said it, but you're an open book, and I think that's fucking awesome. Is that you'll do that, but it helps so many people. Like it's because I'm very much in the same, cut from that same cloth, where I'll tell you whatever, it really doesn't really bother me. And sometimes it's like, okay, maybe I said too much, or maybe I should shut up. But there's so many people that it helps them find freedom and liberation in hearing somebody else say, okay, it's okay to be vocal. It's okay to not be okay sometimes, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I was actually ironically talking to my little sister. I've got I think he's 7-year-old nephew. I should know the exact age, but there's a book that has come out. I think it's called Speak Up. And that's become like my favorite book. I'm like, I want to post that on Facebook, because when in doubt, I think you should say something, because the reason that I know anything that I know is because I've asked somebody.
Yeah.
It's
asking. I've never understood why people struggle asking questions, and it's, I don't know, it's part of human nature. I know that, but I'm the type, like, if I don't know, I'm asking because I want to know.
Well, people are afraid of coming off looking like they don't know things.
Yeah, they don't want to appear to be dumb or inferior or those things. Where it's like, well, the longer I don't ask, the longer I am dumb. I need to ask the question.
Or the longer I have to figure it out, and I can just play along and act like I knew it all along, because that's how my mind used to work. And I used to judge people that way because I judged myself that way. And so then once I broke out of that, then it started to change.
Yeah. Nope. So Jen, if we can, I want to kind of pivot to a little bit of your deconversion experience. Your your story and kind of dive into that. So first of all, the question I always like to ask now as a former, or as Dan says, and I love it, a post-Christian.
I like that.
I love when he said that, that just stuck to me. But Jenna, did you have an aha moment? Like, did you have a click, or was it, and I think we all have that aha moment, but was it a long process? Was it a brief process? What did that look like for you?
I would say that there was a pretty clear journey straight from me almost becoming a youth minister at a Catholic church in town to getting a DWI and not being recommended to be an example for kids anymore. And that sent me away from the church. I started working in bars and started doing other things. That started probably 5 or 6 year long journey that allowed me to get sober, that allowed me to get bored, and then realize that I was in the wrong job, and got a new job and became even more bored and just started educating myself. And so then after about probably 6 months of like really hardcore, like people getting worried about me educating myself, then there was a final, okay, I'm going to get down to the bottom of this for about a week. And then there was like a holy shit, everything just shattered moment.
Mm-hmm. And what did that moment look like or feel like?
So when they say the God glasses were removed, you know, that metaphor, I say the God glasses were shattered. And that's the best way that I can think of to describe it, is that there was this filter over my eyes that was God. And then it fucking broke.
Hell yeah.
And now I'm like, oh, wow, there's all kinds of colors and all kinds of things I didn't know were there.
Yeah.
And that's, if I, real quick, just I want to ask this because I think this is probably the best follow-up question I've ever been asked personally to what you just said in that experience. When you felt that, like you talked about the colors and all the different things, how would you describe the flood of emotions? What was the
fireworks?
What would be the okay?
Fireworks.
Okay, awesome.
Explosions.
Sorry, I feel you. Jesus, Mike, go ahead.
Oh no, I kind of want to just touch on that part of like, why do you think the hesitance is? As somebody who looking on the outside in from your guys' point of view, there, it's like, what do you think causes the hesitance to take those glasses off or throw them off? Like, why do you think people are so hard pressed to kind of keep it the same, you know, and not welcome investigation?
Well, first of all, I don't think they have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't choose to stop believing in God. There was a moment where I realized I don't believe this anymore. So that's the one thing that I think is hard for Christians to understand, is because until you make a switch like that, it's impossible to explain to another human how you literally live in a different world than you thought you lived in. Like the entire world. Like think about culture shock, jumping into a different country and being affected by that. Try a new world, you know? So it's actually traumatizing. Like they're doing research. We're looking into religious trauma syndrome. I'm working with an organization called GCRR, Global Center for Religious Research, where they're promoting submitting research papers on religion, whether it's whether it's good or bad or whatever, trying to figure out what's actually happening to people's brains. Because like you said, you're trying to describe that feeling, like people know what you're talking about, and we're trying to figure out what that stuff is and all that.
So I didn't want to hijack that with what you and Oz were saying, but I just felt like before we moved on to that, it's for me, it's kind of interesting because it's one of those things where I just always I guess it's like, I guess the worldview, since I haven't had it, it's hard for me to imagine it, but I'm always like, I don't see, why, if it's true, I would try to falsify it in every direction I possibly could, but I guess that's different when maybe you don't value that process to begin with.
Well, I did. I was so proud in my early 20s of being the girl going to bars and being able to have drunk religious conversations with people and them being peaceful at the end. But what I didn't realize, looking back, what I didn't realize is that I wasn't open to changing my mind. I was in a game and I was going to win. So it's just, you're not thinking like that, you know? Yeah.
No, I mean, would the idea of like a textual criticism or any type of that, like, does that go through your head at all?
We've been prepped for that. We've heard all of the thing, you know, so many things that we atheists say. We've been prepped for that. And so we've already got this excuse in our brain, or, oh, I'm confused. Okay, well, I'm going to go ask this person that I was told to ask to clarify that for me. And then they'll give me some woo response and then I'll be happy. So it's a cementing, like, this is true, right? Okay, so prove it to me. Okay, that makes me feel better. And then something gets loose and then prove it to me and something makes you feel better.
Yeah. And so and especially when Oz comes back, I don't want to stray away from that whole conversation. But what I liked about, I guess if we fast forward a little bit, is it seems that you always like to stick it on to the topic. So I guess I can see why inevitably you pretty much come to the conclusion that you do, because you kind of doesn't seem like it strays off the path very often. And there's a clip actually that I liked a lot where this guy, he talks about how the God of the Old Testament is a false God, and he kind of really wants to stick on that. But you're like, cool, okay, he's a false God. You're saying there's another God. You know, how can we? What does that God look like? And here's the clip. I enjoyed it.
The Old Testament God is a fake God, not the real God. He's an imposter. He's evil.
Okay, so how do we know who the real God is?
And
how do we know who the real God is?
Now, when the Christ came,
Frank, I'm asking you a question.
Yeah, we don't want to. We please answer Jenna's question.
Well, I guess we have to look within. We have to look within ourselves and raise our internal frequencies, our vibrations.
So what does that mean? How do we do that?
I think looking within ourselves, meditations.
So if I meditate, then I can find the real God?
Well, I mean, there's a possibility.
Because I do meditate and I don't find a God, but you're saying that if I can meditate and somehow tone my frequencies, I don't really know what that means. So I'm just wondering if you can clarify for me so that I can find this God. If you can tell me, how do I look within and use my frequencies to find whatever God that you believe is actually real versus the imposter God from the Old Testament?
I can't tell you that. That's
okay, so then why should I believe it? Like, if you can't prove it to me, then why should I believe anything that you're saying?
And so I love that clip because, like, it's like, it's just so simple. It's just like, okay, you're going to tell me all this stuff. And we can talk about the imposter God. We can go through all those motions. But it's like going to the waiting room, you know, before the doctor. It's like, I'm here for one visit and I want to go out. I don't want to spend all the time in the waiting room with all this nonsense. You know, what is your evidence for it? And then when he ultimately just like concedes, like, well, I don't have any. You're like, well, then why should I believe you? And I think that's just a simple but good point. But why I want to bring that up is, why do you why do you think, I guess, people kind of beat around the bush with that? Like, why isn't it just onto the topic? Why do we always have to steer people back onto the tracks?
Because their brain has been wired to justify it. No matter what somebody throws at you, come up with a reason why you're right. And if you once you can't do that anymore, that's when you're wrong. And so it's kind of the opposite. We're just taught a different way of thinking. Yeah. So they're trying to justify it themselves. They're not doing it on purpose.
And did you always kind of have that ability while you were a believer to stay on track with it, or is that something more so you just developed?
Oh no, I dodged all around, but there was always a point I think that I would come to where if they had me at a dead end, and they're like, okay, now what? I'd be like, well, I'm not supposed to understand, you know, and I would just cop out. But I truly believed it, and you weren't going to change my mind. Yeah. So there's a more so of you can have those kind of similar thought patterns, but until you're actually willing to not make the excuses, so to speak, I guess you're just gonna never apply it the way that you should, right? Right.
Yeah. No, that's and I think that's great. Oz, if you want to pop back in, we can. I don't want to hijack what you guys are saying. I want to gear back definitely towards that process that you and Oz were talking about through there, because I think that's something that's probably the most important thing we could touch upon. Oz, when we say mute Oz, we don't mean like you don't.
I muted myself. See, yeah. I've even bought.
It only works when I say it.
I've even bought into this master plan, but no. And for those that maybe you haven't seen Jenna on the Atheist Experience or one of the ACA shows, that's boss. Like, she was just being a boss on there, and no, that was great. Mike, thank you. And Jenna, kind of coming back to the deconversion part of that. So I completely agree with, we talk about the flood of emotions, and there are the fireworks, there are the damn, this shit's nice, this feels good, and it's liberating, and it's there's freedom from the the judgmentalism and the dogma and all that, but then the part that a lot of people I think are not fearful, but they hesitate to talk about, is then you start thinking about lost friendships, lost family members, as far as those relationships. And I don't know if that applied to you, but for me, I lost a significant amount of relationships, and even family ties, family relationships have been hindered and or become non-existent because of my process. So the reason I share that is, what did that look like for you? Did you experience a separation with friends, family, anything like that?
Yes. So for my family gatherings growing up, they were always very religious, Mardi Gras with the baby Jesus and the cake, and very religious. And that's really the only time that my family on my paternal side really gets together, and they do this like 6 times a year, so it's good enough for them. They get to see each other enough. But they're so religious, and there's so many of them, and there's, in my opinion, just so much trauma in general, and people being triggered, that I'm not equipped to handle that kind of environment yet. I'm not saying that they're bad people. I'm not saying that they attack me or anything. I'm just saying that I think that I would create a scene unintentionally. And I think that I have a lot of emotional work to do before I can do something like that. I do plan on trying again, if they'll let me. I don't know yet. But yes, I've lost a lot of people, partly because of me.
Yeah, and again, I love your transparency and the vulnerability there, because I can say the same thing. So I know you and Brina discussed this, and for our regular viewers, they already know, because I share it very, very publicly. But I'm one diagnosed bipolar, depressed, anxiety, ADD, ADHD. So there's sometimes I know my own shit, my own flaws get in my way. So I know that. But there are many of those relationships that they were hindered or halted because I no longer believed in their God anymore. And now I was less than, or I even had, certain guys where their friends, their wives told them, well, you shouldn't hang out with Oz. You shouldn't hang out with him anymore. He's gonna be a bad influence. Well, I'm still a good guy. I just don't believe in your God. So.
I think that luckily for me, I had already started creating some boundaries around myself, to where I only really hung out with people who accepted me for me. So the people that I kind of have remaining don't care. And in fact, one of my best friends, she's a Christian. And when I told her a little bit after I told the family, she's not online a lot, and I told her on the phone, and I was really scared. And she goes, well, you're still Jenna, right?
Exactly.
I was like, yes. Yes.
All day.
She's like, okay, well then, what's the big deal? I was like, well, thank you. Exactly.
Yep. And if anything, a new and improved Jenna, because like you said, when those fireworks go off and the lights go off, the world just looks like a different place.
This caved in hole that I just was so excited to get to organize and fill with whatever I wanted. And I started listening to just self-help books and how to become a better person. And I'm like, yeah, I actually know how to become the person that I've always wanted to be now. And I'm not there yet, but I'm on the way.
Well, it's a process. We're all working on our process. And then I guess the next extension off of that would be well, first and foremost, you sharing that going to your therapist and seeking therapy. Number one, can we all say great job? Because that's something I think needs to be discussed more freely, more openly on a daily basis. And I myself see a secular therapist on a weekly or biweekly basis because I need that help. I need that assistance, and I'm not afraid to say that. But for you, Jenna, and sharing with our listeners, why would you say that's important, especially somebody going through a deconversion process and kind of the emotional toll that can come along with walking away from religion, because that was your identity, right? That's what made you who you were. Why do you think it's important that folks like you and myself and whoever, that we seek actual professional help to help us cycle through that and process through that?
So that's a tough one, because you're seeing yours bi-weekly. I'm seeing mine once a month because mine's out of network and that's all I can afford. Mm-hmm. I could use my insurance and get another therapist for free, but I've done that a couple times already and I just didn't get anything out of those sessions. What a lot of therapists I've noticed tend to do is they just make you repeat what you've been through in different ways and just ask you more questions, just make you relive it over and over and over again. And what I found out with my current therapist, which, oh my God, she's amazing, is we don't have to do that anymore. There's certain stages of your life where, yes, you have to work it out. You repeat it until you work it out. But there becomes a point where it becomes obsessing. And now we have to say, okay, what are we left with? And say, okay, I'm left with triggers. Now I have to do everything I can to try to identify them. And when they come up, be hopefully in an environment around people that I trust that can help me try to figure out what just happened, and be patient with me and not make me feel guilty for it, because I was guilted so much as a kid that I need almost to spend as much time doing the opposite before I can stop treating myself that way. Yeah,
no, that's good. That's awesome. And my last question to do with that, and then we'll dig into more of the ACA and YouTube and all the fun stuff. But when it comes to that, I love that you do that and you're seeking that help. Like I said, and I do the same. And I know we have a few of the people that are even a part of what we do here at TART that do that, and they want to make sure that they're doing the best that they can, not just take care of their physical health, but also their mental health. And I love that. The last thing that I would, I guess, say or ask is there, for somebody that's maybe on the fence of they're questioning, they're doubting, they're becoming skeptical of their belief or their faith, and they're worried about the things that we just talked about, whether it's the mental health, losing relationships, any of those things. Is there any little bit of advice that you could give them to just help them in that process, help them in that decision-making process?
Trust yourself. That's it. Because everybody's got a different thing going on. Everybody's got a different struggle for a different reason, whether it's to do with religion or not. And so all we can do is keep fighting. And I mean, that's what our subconscious is doing. I mean, our subconscious is keeping our hearts beating, whether we like it or not. So it's keeping us alive. So just trust yourself, learn as much as you can, try to learn from as many different people as you can, and try to avoid echo chambers. But trust yourself ultimately, because you're the best you got. Yeah,
absolutely. And if people, You know, even my kids, I have 4 children, and even the youngest one, I tell them, be authentic, be the most authentic version of you that you know how to be. And if there's anybody in your life that does not respect or love or appreciate the most authentic version of you, they don't belong in your life. They don't belong there. Don't waste mental real estate on those people, because your mental real estate is way too valuable to give that away for free. You know, so be
I said you're not required to, but those people just have something to learn, you know? So I mean, I think absolutely take care of yourself first. But I think that we as a culture, the way that we've been conditioned, look at things as very black and white. I think that religion has had a major influence on that. And I think that we look at, you know, good people and bad people, you know, it's like, well, everybody's good and bad sometimes, you know, so, you know, so just real quick, back to the therapy thing. If you can't, absolutely. I don't want to forget. If you can't afford therapy, I wouldn't stress too much about it, because there is information online.
Absolutely.
There are people that are talking to each other. You know, there are blogs. Just be careful. Just verify information that you get, and when you can. And again, trust yourself. But so back to
or the Street Epistemology Discord channel or any of those types of Discord channels where you could talk to people and just kind of talk about something else and get your mind off things. I feel like seems to work a lot.
Yeah, different things work for different people. And I think that I needed like the 50 different things that I did.
Yeah, it's what's the old saying? Different strokes for different folks, you know. And we all you know, we all need something different. We're not all wired the same way, but we'll transition to and kick into a little more fun conversation here. But Jenna, thank you for kind of diving deep with us there for a little bit, and very much appreciated. But let's talk about YouTube, and let's talk about ACA and the atheist experience and those kind of things. Now, I know you kind of gave your roots, so to speak, a little bit ago, but did I catch on one episode that originally Eric had asked you to, the first offer was for you to co-host with him? Is that the order that it went to?
Oh, so actually, I think it was February. He asked me, he was like, "Can you be a host?" And I think he just meant on a podcast. I don't even know if he meant on video. He just wanted me to be a host on shows or in some way. But I was in a situation to where my husband and I were sharing one vehicle, and I was like, "Can you wait a couple months?" So I ended up just kept volunteering and call screening for those months. And then once I was done, I was a guest on Secular Sexuality a couple of times and got going from there.
Okay. All right. And then, so if you would real quick, because we've had quite a few more people jump in since we first went through that. So what was your, we just shared that. And what was the process of getting to the atheist experience? What was your kind of the ladder, so to speak?
Call screener for Secular Sexuality. I realized I came in that first day and I got so excited, and everybody was volunteers almost. And it was this library with a studio. I was like, this is my place. I'm going to be here all the time, and I'm volunteer all the time. And I was talking about it, and they're going to hate that I said this. The reaction that I got was kind of like, "Oh, yeah, okay." And I was like, "Oh, these are atheists. They're not going to just believe me. I have to prove it." Oh, okay. So I decided to commit to once a week. So I started call screening for Secular Sexuality for a few months, did a couple guest appearances, and then was just hanging out at the library one night, and Nonprofits was about to go on, and I don't know if the kerfuffle was going on, and Jamie, the president, was busy, and so he was dealing with a lot. So nothing against him in any way, but he was like, "Hey, you wanna give it a try?" And I was like, "Sure, yeah, okay." So did Nonprofits, and then Matt was there apparently, and just, I don't know, he asked me after that, he messaged me on Facebook. He's like, "So do you want to be on the Atheist Experience?" And I was like, sure, after like a couple years of training, right? He's like, "Yeah." Oh. So
yeah, so that's good though. It's got to make you feel good. It feels like you're like, okay, these guys, give you a little chip on your shoulder. Like at least I think I know what, what I'm talking about. People around me are telling me that I know what I'm talking about. So that must feel good, right?
Weird, because like what you said, I should feel really proud, but I'm like, but am I right about anything?
Yeah, no, but that's the, but hey, that's the best part of being a skeptic is that that's the best part is you're like, I have to look at this at all angles and always be open to maybe what I would say. And I'm sure, guys on the show, something I actually was curious. It's like, do you guys, if you say, you kind of say something and go back and fact check it. I see that like, it seems that you guys come back on and you'll correct it. Is there like a process that you guys do, you review or anything like that, where you kind of just make sure you,
No, some people, I'm not saying it's anybody on the Atheist Experience, but some people on shows don't even watch the shows ever.
Gotcha.
So that's when people do that, that's because they watched it and caught it and just felt responsible for it. And so admire those people. I personally don't go back and watch my shows anymore. I did the first couple times, but I realized that it just makes me too self-conscious. So I just don't.
I understand completely. Yeah.
But yeah, there's no training there. I mean, you can ask anybody anything, and there's books. I have a book of fallacies, like somewhere right next to me. We're all, almost everyone at that library are, what do you call it? Self-taught. There's a word for it. It's a fun word. Anyway, somebody's going to come up with it.
And I'm sure it'll hit you in a second. And Samuel Do Nothing says that I talk a lot, and I agree. Thank you. That's why I'm on a YouTube channel. That's why I'm on a YouTube channel. Samuel Do Nothing.
Hey, that's my face. Thanks, Tommy Benson.
Oh my god.
I
think you even curled your hair in that one. But so Jenna, going through that and now being a regular staple on the Atheist Experience, on our show we have one guest and we go through epistemic questions and really get down to their why. But what you talked about the first few episodes. What were those first few episodes like, where you have live callers? They're calling in and you have no idea what kind of batshit crazy things that they might call in with. What was it like, those first few calls that you took?
Like a new video game. Like I'd been watching the Atheist Experience, obviously. And so I kind of felt like it was something I could figure out. And I've figured out that that's one of my favorite things to do, is figure things out. So it's become like, oh my God, I get 3 to 8 people on a Sunday where I get to try to figure these people out one after another. Mm-hmm. I'm like, that's just fun to me. So I just kind of get in the zone and I'm just like in the call. I don't know.
Yeah, I can tell whenever like a caller comes in, sometimes I can tell like you like lean in. I feel like I do the same thing too sometimes. So I guess that's why I'm like, I relate to it, where it seems like that's all you're zoned in on. And it's like, from someone who's ADHD, I'm just like, ooh, I want that power.
Oh
I'm just like, ooh, a bird.
Well, I've only hosted a couple times, and that's a completely different ball game.
Yeah.
Co-hosting is nice because then you have Matt right next to you. He's been doing this like 15 years. He knows what he's doing. He's running the show, and you're just kind of like, oh, jumping in every now and then. When you're in the host seat, I mean, you're trying to keep it entertaining. You're trying to make sure there's no gaps in conversation. You're trying to make sure that you're not being rude. All these things. Trying not disrespecting the co-host or so it's a lot harder, but it's still fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
Everything's fun.
So being a co-host with Matt Dillahunty, and obviously the public has their perception sometimes of Matt, but what's it like being a regular as a co-host, sitting next to Matt? What's that experience like? Because we hear different stories, but obviously you get to work with him all the time. What's it like being a co-host with Matt?
He's just another guy. He's my friend. We can call each other and just talk. He just strikes me as just, I don't know. He struck me immediately as family.
Hmm.
You know, he's
That's
just,
cool.
just a guy.
That's awesome. And when we talked to Objectively Dan, he said the same thing. He was like, he's just he's
I mean,
that
he's
dude.
at the library all the time. Like anybody can go up and meet him. Like it's not like he's so hard to access and he's got bodyguards everywhere. You know, he's anytime the library's open, almost he's there and just hanging out. So you can go play board games, video games with him. He loves that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, everything I've heard from people that actually interact with him is he's just a great dude. You know?
Yeah, he really is.
Sometimes folks get misjudged by their character on screen. You know,
well, and you know what? Me too.
Yeah, all of us.
I'm nowhere near that level of status or whatever. But there are certain people who get really nervous to talk to me, and I'm like, no, just think of me as a waitress. You know, like I'm just Jenna.
Yep. You know? Now we have just Jeff and we have just Jenna. So
I know you said just Jeff. I was like, no,
we have a bit of a thing going here with the justs. So Jenna, being a part of the ACA, and now you have your own YouTube channel and you're growing that and you're doing that. The next thing I would like to ask is what bit of advice would you give to someone that has maybe they're aspiring to start their own channel that deals with atheism or skepticism or anything like that? Maybe they're pondering that, or they have, and maybe they've hit a little bump in the road. They really don't, kind of losing the inspiration to do it. What kind of advice would you give to them?
It depends on what they're trying to do. Are we talking about people like specifically in our little community where we're all trying to promote friendly atheism? Is that what we're talking about specifically?
Correct. Yeah, let's stick there. Sorry. Yeah, let's stick there.
I'd say, first of all, don't be hard on yourself because you're doing the best you can, whether you like it or not. And I think that we're a good community to be around. You know, if you need help, there's so many people that have made it very clear they're available. It's just that we are also a community where it's hard for us to do. So we're all kind of learning together and learning from each other. And I don't know, I feel like it's a safe place. So don't be afraid. Be not afraid.
You caught me off guard.
Yeah, but for real this time, yeah.
Yeah, but for real though, just go at your own pace. I started off really slow. You can start off really quick and be really popular and then die right away. Not die literally, but die famously. And then you can come back. You know, nobody knows what's going to happen with the pandemic. Like, just do the best you can and don't worry about it.
Well, the nice thing about our channel is we do have Jesus in flesh. That's part of our channel. So even if we die in 3 days, we will arise. So that's a good thing about our channel. So Jesus, Mike, thank you.
That extends only to me. So not the four of you guys don't get to hang on to my what's that story in the Bible where the girl touches Jesus's robe and he's like, "Who touched my robe?" And the disciples are just like, no, we're so close together. Someone must have bumped you. And he's like, "No, she touched my robe." Yeah, you guys don't get that. Like, I will know. I will feel the power drain from me. But anyway, I actually wanted to ask you, would you, like, with the whole ACA thing, like, would you get involved in kind of the debate scene at all? Do you see yourself getting involved with anything like that?
I thought initially, so I was listening to Atheist versus Theist debates and just getting started with the Atheist experience when I had that flip moment. And immediately I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to go and learn apologetics. Oh man, and so I did start trying to learn that kind of stuff. It's helpful in what I'm doing, but I've learned I don't want that kind of stress. It's very stressful for me. I'd rather have a discussion and talk about what I really want to know. To me, a debate is about winning, and I'm kind of done with that. I'd rather have a conversation. So cool. At any time, I'm willing to have a conversation with anybody and just learn.
Yeah, I understand that. Fair enough.
I'd rather ask more questions than do more speaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we prefer the same thing. We want to ask questions, and debating can be for the other folks that like that. Yeah. But Jenna, what we want to do next is we want to move into Q&A, and we're going to introduce you to our good friend, Murder Shed Steve.
So it's time for Q&A with Murder Shed Steve.
Wait. Can you provide evidence that a God exists?
Oh, well, hello, everybody. So the other day I had a light that was flickering in my house, and I couldn't figure out exactly what it was, but got an inkling that it was some very small gremlins that you couldn't even see. And, faith is fact, so they were gremlins. But after a little more investigation and appealing to the gremlins to stop messing with my lights, they wouldn't do it. So eventually I had to change the light switch. I found out that's where they were hiding. And light works great now. It's fantastic. So how's everybody doing tonight?
Well, we were good until that happened.
Hey, remember everybody, Jenna, faith is fact.
Yeah.
So
I believe him. All of that was required was faith. But
that's so funny.
I mean, so watch out for all those gremlins. Every once in a while, you have to change something out in your electrical components because those gremlins get in there. They're very small; you can't see them. But
have y'all seen The Borrowers? It's the same kind of story. Yeah.
I don't remember it.
It's the same thing. Where they get into things. You lose your keys. It's because of the borrowers.
Yes, I do remember that actually. That was pretty funny and very true because of faith. So I have a question here from GeoSam, and I got to say, GeoSam
is the man. We have received artwork from him to use for all of our social media. So if you're looking to clean up your image in social media, hit him up.
Cool.
He does great work. Jenna, have you gone through an anger phase? If you have, how did you cope with these feelings?
Yes, I did. I think that based off of the people that I've spoken to in this community, I think that my anger phase might have lasted a little bit less in time than most people. But I think that the reason for that is because I was so angry and had nobody to talk to that I got on the ACA private discussions group and I was just asking so many questions. And somebody pretty quickly asked me, have you ever heard of Anthony Magnabosco and the street epistemology? I was like, no, what is it? And so I was like, oh, okay. So I went and found it. And I was like, this is it. This is the key. Trying to understand rather than having this bickering fight. And so that's when I started making my transition into just kind of becoming a better, more understanding person. So street epistemology.
And Anthony is just a great guy.
Yes. Great guy to learn from. I really like the tutorial videos that he does where he goes over them sometimes afterward and says, this is why I do this. And the importance of pause, the last thing that somebody says echoes in their brain if you just give them a second. And then they can sometimes they say something that they realize, oh, wait, that sounds ridiculous. No, that's not what I really meant. And then they can already adjust their views from there.
And adjusting views is a good indication that they're true. Another question for Jenna. Hypothetically, if you hadn't been rejected by your church to do youth ministry, do you think that you would still be an atheist? How do you know it wasn't just based on an emotional decision?
First of all, because it wasn't a decision. Second of all, it took a long time. But honestly, I don't know. If I hadn't been pushed away by that church, I might not be an atheist right now, but I'm just the kind of person that I would have just kept asking questions anyway. And I was working with middle schoolers who were really good at asking questions. I just didn't get enough time with them, really. I got like a summer. I think that I eventually would have ended up atheist just because I think it's obvious.
It's easy to, pick the honest position.
Yeah. Well, after you do it a few times.
I wouldn't know. Another question from No Hair Mama Bear. How has your life improved since you've become an atheist?
I've begun to have the ability to learn about emotions. I had done everything based off of my gut instinct because that's what God was that's how God spoke to me. That's how God told me what to do. Whatever felt right was what God wanted. So that I didn't have time or registry for emotions because that was all God. So I was like, wait, so I actually experience anger? I thought I'm just a happy person. I didn't know that I experienced anger. And I started, oh, wait, I do. It's just that in short bursts. And so it allowed me to start managing my emotions. And I'm managing my life rather than just falling through it. So I think that's huge.
It's nice to feel like you're in charge of yourself.
Yes. Because you spend so much time trying to control everything else.
Exactly. Got another question here from Samuel Doolittle. What would it take for you to believe in any God or higher power? I know, but I want to know.
Well, first of all, you'd have to define those two things.
It does say any higher power, so it's pretty open.
Well, but what is higher?
Definition.
Higher, like higher where? Like.
Yeah,
I think
feel like when it's used, it's
something tall. Let's say giant.
Yeah. I was going to say, yeah, that's a good one because
giants.
Its power level's over 9,000 at least.
It would have to,
at least.
It would have to get approval by the science community.
Sure. So it would have to be tested and verified, and then testable and verifiable
by more than one person.
Fair enough. Well, I think that's all the questions that we actually have at this time. I didn't see any more unless somebody else did, but very nice chatting with you, Jenna. Thank you for answering all of our questions.
Thank you. That was fun.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Steve.
See you guys later.
Don't murder anybody, please. we need our Q&A guy.
That's so funny.
People ask where he is, but we're always like, in
a shed.
Well,
in a shed.
Someone in the comments put it pretty well. We're like, well, the FBI doesn't know. Let's just keep it at that. And I was like, that's a good point.
Yeah, and when we all met down in Georgia, he declined my offer to fly him down so we could all meet. So we still don't know that he's actually a person in a shed. We don't even know who or what he is. So
we'll figure it out one day.
We all tried to meet together, and he refused. But,
we'll report back after we meet him, or we won't report back after we meet him, and you will know. So.
And then, Jenna, before we do wrap, again, I want to make sure that anytime we have somebody, a guest on, especially that's another content creator, that we give you the platform to talk about you. So Jenna, tell us again about everything that you've got your hands on, that you're involved with in our community, and how they can find you and reach you.
Alrighty. I am the everything of Atheistasis, which is the show on my channel, Jenna Belk. I create it. Everything except I have a couple people volunteering. Anyway, that show, I'm trying to promote friendliness and openness and asking questions and admitting when we're wrong, and just kind of showing being the change that I want to see in the world. That's what I try to live by. And I'm on the Atheist Experience, also trying to do the same thing. And I'm accepting donations since I am also working full time, and I have a family, and I have bills and grocery shopping and all kinds of other things. I would like to do this full time, but I am nowhere near making enough money. So if the people that have seen my stuff support me, think that I'm doing good things, I would appreciate $1 a month. I'm accepting donations at patreon.com, www.patreon.com/Jenna Belk. You have no idea how helpful that can be to all of us, to each of us. Pick your top 3 or top 5 and give each of them $1 a month. And just that keeps us going. That allows us to buy equipment, that allows us to make it to conventions, because most of the time we're paying our own way. But we try to support each other. So if you can't support us by making content as well, maybe toss a couple bucks this way. But thank you.
Yep, great. That was great. That was fucking awesome. that might be the best way I've heard that presented. But do go check out Jenna's her independent YouTube channel, and even for those that she has a couple episodes that's just talking about fallacies, and for people that are just getting into this and you want a better understanding, like just some basic things like that, those things are needed. And Jenna has those on her platform, and that's awesome. And we need that. So go check her out and support her. And as always, you can find her on the Atheist Experience and rocking it out there and being a boss like she was in the clip that you saw saw earlier. But this will be the last thing I'll say, and we'll move into the last segment. But Jen, again, thank you so much for being at the round table tonight with us and hanging out and talking to us. We appreciate it. You taking time out of your evening away from your family to do that. You're a boss.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. And lastly, and Jenna, if you want to hang out for this last part of it, feel free. But these are the final thoughts with the Jesus Mike.
Oh, I'm so.
Do you believe everything you read from a book? What are your standards of evidence? Well, let's go on over to Jesus Mike and his final thoughts.
So the topic for the end of today's show is going to be falsification. I picked it at random. No, for real. I've been just going through TikTok and going through all these things where people make these crazy claims, whether it's QAnon, ghosts. See, Jenna, for me, I'm getting kind of tired of theology, to be fair. I really care about just, and me and Dan talked about this when he was on. It was like, I love how they just talk about any beliefs, because when we talk about theology, I might not have a way to even falsify what we're talking about, but a lot of these things that I see when I scroll on TikTok or YouTube or any of these things, where I'll see someone make these sun-gazing claims where you can stare in the sun and get power somehow, or clutching crystals and all these things. But I never see anybody offer up a hypothesis that can make that can make predictions and that's testable. And we never get this element of falsification. And so I guess for the end part of it, and I'm going to kind of hear your thoughts on falsification, or if you think it's an important thing that everybody should attach to their beliefs. If we're going to use a white swan, for example, it's as simple as saying, if you were to think that I have a hypothesis that all swans are white, you would falsify that by observing a non-white swan, and then therefore you see a black swan in Australia, falsify the hypothesis that all swans would be white. So do you think that is a valid way to take any belief that someone might have, and should people challenge their own beliefs that way?
I think you should. I think no matter what it is, you should try to prove it wrong, at least see where you get. Because if it's true, then it shouldn't be afraid of tests. So, yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that's what we have at the beginning. Well, we kind of changed up the intros, but we used to have a tag. It was the truth has nothing to fear from investigation. And I'll kind of rehash that before we send it off, that if you have a belief and you think it's true, and you are hesitant to investigating that or offering up any way to falsify it, you should do an internal critique on why that's the case. And again, Jenna, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys with another episode here soon. So thank you guys.
Thank you.